So nestled in between the major platform announcements at WWDC yesterday, Apple did throw in a few updates on HomeKit. Now, as a smart home enthusiast, my ears always perk up a little bit when they mention HomeKit, despite the fact that, well, since its inception, it's been a bit of a disappointment. Now, I still love the idea behind the Home app and HomeKit itself, though, admittedly, I rarely use it anymore. But let's get to what's new. And, well, the answer to that, not much. Probably the biggest thing mentioned was that they open sourced HomeKit and joined the Project Connected Home over IP, along with Amazon, Google, IKEA, Samsung, and many other smart home device manufacturers to work on creating a simplified standard that will essentially allow you to use whatever assistant you want, whether that's Google's, Amazon's, or Siri. But this was announced back in December of 2019, and the initial draft of the new standard isn't expected until late 2020, so probably won't see much of anything until at least 2021. And given that it was already announced, not really any new announcements. This was probably just Apple's first opportunity to mention it, since they haven't had any events given the global pandemic. But when Craig Federighi talked about it, he mentioned 3 kind of bullet points that they're focused on, which is ease of use, privacy, and that it being better together. So what does that really mean at the end of the day for those of us who are going to be using the products? Well, they did add some, I guess, kind of nice to have, or perhaps nice touches, but I don't know that there's any real essentials there, just kind of given where the state of things. And we'll kind of cover some of those. So they talked about automatic automations, which for, say, people who are maybe not so techy and they just want a simple solution, that they have in fact made it easy that if a device is HomeKit compatible, it is very easy to set up with your phone. And when you do set it up, it will now start to suggest either automations that it can do things automatically for you. I'm not sure how nicely this will play with the existing routines that you may already have. But if you're just getting started, this might be a pretty useful tool when you're getting these things set up. Adaptive lighting is another one, which essentially will change kind of the color warmness or coolness throughout the day, so that it's kind of a warmer temperature in the evening and in the morning, and then kind of a cooler temperature during the day. Again, a lot of light bulb manufacturers, I know Philips Hue for sure has this functionality. So again, I'm not sure what the big benefit you're getting from HomeKit really is versus just using the stuff built in. Again, time will tell. One of the more interesting things they kind of talked about was facial recognition, which sounds either kind of scary or pretty cool. Though I think it's one of those ones that, for me at least, is going to be totally useless, as my friends and family almost never drop by unannounced, so I tend to be expecting them. So if they happen to, the doorbell rings, I'm probably expecting that it's going to be them. But for privacy, it does only identify the people that you've tagged in your Photos app. And when I checked, the only person that Apple can identify by name in my photos is my girlfriend. And so it seems, again, like unless I actually manually go through that, and maybe I would, but it seems like it's very limited, and that's not an example of, well, this just works, right? It's one of those, no, you have to take a bunch of steps, even though almost all, a lot of those people, their picture shows up in my contacts, and I'm not quite sure why it doesn't match their photo with their information. Probably a privacy setting, but this is one of those ones where it makes it not very useful unless you're really going to sit there and go through it. I think really that feature would be a lot more useful if it could identify, say, hey, you have the UPS driver is at the door, or the cable repair guy is there, or hey, your groceries have been delivered, or the pizza guy. that type of thing, kind of using a neural engine to identify those types of things. And you're starting to see in actual other security cameras and smart devices where they're already working on that, which again seems a whole lot more useful than announcing, hey, Sally's at the door. For those reasons, it's like, well, not terribly excited about it. Another thing they mentioned was activity zones, which essentially means if your camera or your doorbell is facing like the sidewalk, it's not going to try and identify people walking along there. You can tell it to ignore certain areas or just focus on certain things. But again, this is something that a good portion of now smart doorbells already feature that built in. So again, it's one of these where these aren't bad ideas, but Apple, if you're going to do these, then build the darn hardware to do it well and show us what you're supposed to do, because here's the problem. All of these features assume that you have a doorbell that is HomeKit compatible. And, well, here's where we go back to really my biggest disappointment with HomeKit. Of the 3 HomeKit compatible doorbells on Apple's website, 2 aren't actually even available. And one from Netatmo is starting to look more and more like vaporware, as it was announced way back in January of 2019. And we're 18 months later here and still nothing. And one of the other ones is still in the Kickstarter phase, which again seems like a great way to end up with vaporware. Nothing against Ubi, don't know anything about them, but don't know if that's really going to ship, or maybe it will, but the question is when. So the only HomeKit compatible doorbell that I could even find was from a company in the Netherlands called Robin, and it costs $679. And really, so far, of the reviews I've been able to find, I haven't seen really much in the way of glowing, warm reviews recommending this thing. But if you kind of look the other direction, it's like, well, what if I don't need a HomeKit compatible doorbell? Is it such a big deal? Yeah, right. You find that there's many other good options out there, including ones from Amazon and Google for less than a third of that price, $200, or right around $200 is where a lot of them are. You can get ones for under $100 these days. Will more compatible products be released? Probably, but I feel like we say that every year, that HomeKit compatibility is coming. HomeKit compatibility is coming sometime, eventually, at some mysterious time in the future, maybe. For example, Eufy, they make a well-reviewed doorbell that does promise to deliver HomeKit compatibility in a future update, but a lot of companies have promised that type of thing to help sell the product now, and you know, two years down the road, you kind of push it under the rug because you're already on new product launches. Though, to be fair to them, Eufy did make good on their promise for their security cameras. They are now HomeKit compatible. It was something they had announced, so it does seem at least reasonable to assume that they're going to deliver on that promise in a future update. But I digress. You probably didn't come here to listen to me talk about doorbells. Or maybe you did. Maybe you just really love to listen to people just wax poetic about doorbells and they're your favorite thing, in which case I'll make you a whole bunch of doorbell videos. But for the rest of you, let's get back to kind of what's new with HomeKit. I think really kind of, if we're looking for a summary here, that there's not a whole lot to see there. Some minor, what are probably going to end up being kind of minor updates to it. Some nice to have things, but again, the lack of hardware to make some of this stuff work is really what's kind of holding this back. So, well, Apple continues to provide a pretty good framework. I think that the reality is that HomeKit is still a nice to have option in a device, but not essential, like something where it needs to work with Amazon or Google, as their cheap Echo Dots and Google Home Minis have nearly all of the market share. And with digital assistants, smart speakers, and smartphone apps, even without HomeKit compatibility on 100% of your smart home devices, the fact that they have apps, you can put them on your phone, you can use your voice assistants, and if you're really really into it, you can use Siri shortcuts and if this then that. You can install a home bridge. You can make a lot of this stuff work even if it's not going to work out of the box. But I would love to get your feedback on this. Do you only buy HomeKit compatible devices? Do you use a mix? Do you not care? Have you become a grumpy old man who says, "Oh, I'm not getting one of those for cockpit devices until it can yell at those kids to stay off my lawn"? But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Take care.